All right, guys, go ahead.
You just had Jordan in here, coach, and talking to him about his shooting and so forth, and the way defenses concentrate on him. Are you pleased with the way he handles that kind of focus, how he responds to it? And
What kind of
the defensive focus that other teams put on him?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the other night, you know, as an example, in the first half, he really got it going, and consequently helped our team race a pretty wide margin, especially for the first half. In the second half, they chose to box and one him and put a lot of attention on him. You know, in addition to having lights chase him wherever he went, you know, they also had, you know, guys operating in their zone that had an eye out for him. And I thought, you know, he missed a few floaters in the lane. He did his job offensive rebound. He took what the defense gave him. And, you know, I know as a player, when you get close to 20 points and a half, you know, you feel like, hey, I might have a 40-point night. But he did what his team needed him to do. He didn't get out of sorts. He took the shots that I think presented themselves. And consequently, our offense was able to run fairly smooth against a defense you don't see very often. So, yeah, I think he handled it really well.
Is that a sign of maturity from him?
I think so. I'd never say that that Jordan's been immature on the offensive end. I think maybe inexperienced, especially at our level, knowing what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. But, you know, I think that, you know, he has a maturity about him. So now, defensively, he's got a ways to go. I think we all know that. But, you know, I don't think he's ever been immature on the offensive end. He's been casual, been inexperienced. He's been sloppy with the ball. I think he's gotten a lot better in that area as well.
How often have you used the box and one on opponents, and what does it say about the player that you're doing that to?
I've never done it. I mean, I've coached against it. Way back when I thought I was a player, I had a few on me. Yeah, I always feel as a coach, if you go against it, it's not a defense that your opponent's practicing a whole lot. So if you could have a couple answers up your sleeve, which I thought we did, you know, I thought we, you know, we didn't look confused in any way, shape, or form. Generally, teams get out of it once they realize that, you know, it's not going to throw a monkey wrench into the works. And I thought that's how we handled it, and they stuck with it. But again, at the end of the day, the scoreboard, it isn't Jordan Wara versus Miami. It's our team, and our guys stepped up and made shots and got the ball where we wanted to. So it's not a defense you see a whole lot at the college level, in my opinion.
What are some of the things you see in terms of standouts that maybe you didn't see from this team back in August or September that you like? And what are two things that you really would like to see improve?
Well, I think that you know, we've been a pretty good rebounding team all year. I think outside the last two games, we've been a team that you know, has lived at the foul line. It gets a lot more difficult the better teams you play, and you know, the more athletic teams are, and the more you get scouted. I think we've been a team that has shared the ball particularly well, really all year long. I think it starts with our point guard, and you know, defensively, I think that we have to become better at keeping the ball in front of us, not gambling as much. But I think, you know, we're playing better and better teams as we get deeper into our schedule. So when you look at our defensive numbers, say against a Southern, you know, Robert Morris, a Kent State, it's not a comparison. We're playing better teams and we're playing better players. So I'd like to think that we're getting better, but we have to ramp it up. We have smaller guards. We need to keep the ball out of the lane and, you know, contest a shot. But that's the challenge that the ACC brings.
Has your approach been different now that the schedule does pick up?
No. I mean, I don't know how you just got to approach it, you know, practice by practice. You certainly hone in on scouting. But no, I like to make sure my players know who they're getting each and every day on the floor.
Chris, do you hope the VJ made a couple of putbacks last game against Miami in pretty key times? Are you hoping that gets him going a little bit?
I just like the way that he got going. If you just said had the same statement and said, hey, he made a couple of threes, I'm sure that would have helped his confidence. But I just like seeing the aggressiveness come out of VJ. Like he wasn't tiptoeing on ice. He was sprinting in from the three-point line, trying to get involved on both ends of the floor. And, the more aggressive VJ that we get, the more that you'll see him out there on game night.
Ryan was complimentary of VJ and his intangibles. Obviously, the fans only get to see the games and get a little frustrated. But what does VJ bring, from behind closed doors and practices to help you guys?
He brings a lot of maturity to our team. He brings a team-first attitude, and I know it hasn't gone for him necessarily the way that he's wanted or probably envisioned over the summer, but he's never turned sour. I mean, it's a credit to him. He's never started to force things and take bad shots. And so we need him to get going. As I mentioned before, the aggressive VJ King is the one that works best for our team and works best for him. But I couldn't ask for somebody to continue to put the team first while he's sort of dealing with confidence issues and not playing maybe as much as he'd like.
Pitt struggled against the North Carolina zone. You used a little bit of your 1-3-1 against Kentucky. Have you worked on zone very much? Would you be inclined to mix that in? Or
we work on zone every day. Just because it doesn't manifest itself on the game night doesn't mean that we don't practice it. So when those situations arise where we feel like it could help our team win the game, then we'll put it out there. But, we're not going to put something out there if we haven't worked on it and don't have a full understanding of what it's going to bring.
There have been a number of contributing factors, but attendance is down fairly dramatically over the last 2 years. Do you have any thoughts about what that does in terms of energy at home and any ideas on solutions?
I think the crowds have been great. I wasn't here 4 or 5 years ago, but I can only compare it to what where I came from. It's obviously a huge arena, but I think our crowds have helped us win games. I'm no dummy. You win games, people come. That's what we're trying to do, and I hopefully our fans feel like our players are busting their ass for them and playing hard, playing together, representing the fan base the way they want to be represented. Our coaching staff's working awfully hard, but I couldn't ask anything more from the fans that are there, how loud they've been. Ticket sales will go up. People will get in the seats the more we win.
You've always been big on sticking to your core principles and working on those and harping on those. You mentioned on Sunday that you did switch off screens instead of hedging. How often over your career have your teams made those small little tweaks within your system to kind of mix and match?
Yeah, we've always had that in our pocket, even this year. Because there's times where at the end of the game when you just can't afford to have anybody really open based on a big guy rolling to the rim. We'll switch 1 through 5. And over the years, at my previous stop, we did that from time to time. It really depended on the mobility of our big guys. But I think when you watch the game, especially at higher levels, NBA Finals, that's all they did. It makes the game harder on big guys at times. But that's why you need versatile bigs. And, fortunately, I think with Steven and Malik especially, those two, they are versatile enough to move their feet and try to keep the ball in front. When you're talking about last game, 2 highly quick guards, guys that can really get in the lane, even on their own man, let alone a big guy. So I thought they did an adequate job.
How many shots did Likes and Johnson hit in reviewing the film where you're thinking, we did everything we can and these guys are still, it seemed like at least 5 or 6? Yeah,
there were a couple times that they danced against our big guys and got to the rim and maybe hit a tough going against their body floater at the end of the shot clock. But, I think I got some feedback like, why is Mack keeping those bigs out there and guarding the perimeter players? Well, I'd like to show you the can of worms if our big guys were hard hedging or flat hedging some of those things, especially with our smaller perimeter players. So we knew we would give up some, but I think as the game wore on, especially the last 30 minutes, we were pretty daggone good defensively.
Chris, speaking of Malik, do you think some of your best offense is when he's on his rear end grabbing offensive rebounds? Can you draw that up?
Yeah. It's not a great play.
But it does like Malik, Ryan, even if they might be in a little bit of a slump, you still tell them to keep shooting and keep knocking down shots. Do you feel like it's given them the ability to have confidence and stay loose, that you kind of trust them to keep knocking down shots and keep trying?
I mean, you know, guys are going to go through periods of time where they maybe doubt their shot or they don't feel great about it. The last thing I want to do is compound the problem. Are they taking a good shot? And are they taking it within the context of the offense? If they can answer those two questions with a yes, then they got to take the shot, you know, and they got to know that the coach, you know, their coach believes in them. You know, otherwise, you know, we're going to start scoring in the 40s, and that's going to be no good for anybody.
Are you inclined to keep bringing Malik off the bench like he has been? I mean, it seems to work pretty well. But.
No, I'm not inclined to do anything. I'll start the players that are playing best. You know, there are a lot of variables. You know, it affects you know, the guy that you take out. It affects rotations. You know, who's coming in for who. But at the end of the day, if I'm a player and I'm playing better, then you know, and I earn the start, then I hope the coach would reward me. But Malik's been a great soldier. He hasn't always had great practices. He hasn't always played well. He's certainly played well as of late, and I think defensively he's been our best big all year long. So to answer your question, I don't know. You know, he may start tomorrow, he may not, but you know, he's still going to be a big part of what we do.
When you're playing a team that starts 3 freshmen like Pittsburgh, are there ways of exploiting that, of using that to your advantage?
Well, they're on their home floor. You know, by the time they're in their 15th game, this isn't the first time they've been in that situation before. They've played in some high-level games, so it's really not about their age or experience. It's about understanding what Pittsburgh's trying to do, how they're playing, and you know, be prepared for it.
As a general statement, do you think that 6'10", 6'11" players are being asked to do a lot more now in basketball at all levels than maybe 10 years ago?
Absolutely.
Why is
Especially on
that?
the perimeter.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be a big guy. Just, you know, just remember, you know, growing up, following college basketball and ultimately NBA, you had so many Patrick Ewings, you know, Olajuwon, you know, Shaq, Tumbo. You just don't see those guys anymore. You know, you see more of the, you know, the Kevin Durant's and the LeBron James. I know he's a small forward, but he's 6'9". You know, and so I think the game's changed a little bit. There's not as much of an emphasis in low post play as there used to be. I think the three-point line has changed some things. The shot clock has changed some things as well. You know, kid's 11 years old and he's 6'2". He's got 3 trainers that are telling him, you know, how to dribble with tennis balls between his legs. So the game's changed.
Are those guys more athletic than they were?
I think overall, yes. I don't know why that is. Sometimes I'll get to varsity high school games a little bit early, and you see kids in JV games dunking on people. Hell, when I played in varsity in 1988, I was like one of 2 guys that could dunk the ball. And that wasn't an exception around the city. It's just, I don't know what they're feeding these kids today.